All righty. What's up, everybody? How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? Um, as everybody hops in here, let me just say, I do not feel good. So, if my voice goes out, if you see me drinking some stuff that looks like piss, I'm telling you, it is because your boy ain't feeling good. Your boy is struggling. But because I love you guys, and because this is a story that we have covered a lot since all of this really broke years ago, involving the sport of golf and the politics behind this new venture, Live, with really an entire country's backing through the PIF, the relationships they had, who they were in bed with. There is some humongous news that I'm going to get into first. Um, I'm going to try to give it a moment and let everybody hop in here. I'm pulling up comments as well, so send those along as you wish. And while we wait for everybody to get in here, let me also just say this. Let me also say this. I appreciate everybody sticking with us, being with us, appreciating what we're doing. I mean, it is huge. It is huge, and your support means the world to me. Um, I also have a few other announcements while we're waiting for more people to hop in here. Um, let me see. Injured table tennis player, which is an amazing username. Thank you. Although I'm gonna be filling in the holes and reading between the lines and giving my analysis as we go through who broke this story. So all credit to CNBC, and the writer is Lillian Rizzo. All credit to them. So a few other announcements, and then we'll hop into it. First, we have more people that will be contributing to the channel, which I'm very excited about. Sharon Reed is a name that I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. She's going to be doing a few clips. J.R. Jackson, longtime friend of mine. Also, we hosted TYT Sports back in the day. He is going to be doing more. And we have another name that I am really excited to share that I think is going to do tremendous work for us. I have the utmost faith in him. We align on many things, and he is a pros pro, and that is Chris Williamson, who I would love for all of you guys to follow on Twitter. Okay, here we go. There was humongous news this morning as the PGA Tour announced that they are merging with Live Golf, the Saudi-backed venture, which many thought of, as did I, that this was an effort to sports wash Saudi's image. They had tournaments all throughout the country and outside of the country, that being the United States. They would compete in England, what have you. And there were many who protested. In Oregon, there was a long story short, there was a woman who was killed, and it was from a Saudi man who we believe was whisked away in the middle of the night by the Saudi government. He has been on the run. We believe that he is in Saudi Arabia. I covered all of this. Check out the TYT Sports YouTube channel for all of that. And so we had these defectors, right? Bryson DeChambeau got paid a ton of money to leave the PGA Tour and go to Live Golf. Phil Mickelson was another name, received humongous sums of money to go to Live Golf. I believe Bubba Watson went as well. Brooks Koepka was another name. Dustin Johnson was a humongous name. Charles Schwartzel was another name. I mean, the list goes on and on what these guys were trying to do by bringing in PGA golfers. Now, there was also the CEO of Live Golf, Greg Norman, If you're just hopping in, not feeling great, but I'm doing this all for you guys. So Greg Norman became CEO. Back in the day, he wanted to have a, my words, defectors tour, where he wanted to challenge the status quo of the PGA, which in theory is great. It's just a matter of how you do it. You know, as you look at us and what we have done, our morals are pretty simple. We want people to have health care. We believe sports represent the times of the present day. And we believe that, you know, multinational corporations do not really have your back, and the signs and slogans are just a way to have us believe that they do have our back, when really all of this stuff, playing left versus right, is a way to stimulate us into believing that they are good faith, when really they are bad faith actors who do not want class warfare while they rob our pockets and leave us divided. So with that being said, Live Golf was like, hey, let's hire Greg Norman because he had this vision previously. And he did. I believe this was in the late 90s, early 90s. And it failed, and he was laughed at. And thus, he had a second chance. He took it immediately. When he was hired by Saudi Arabia and Live Golf, he said erroneous public statements about the, probably know where I'm going here, the obvious talking points of, wow, this is really bad. You should probably say something because these are the people you are representing. Jamal Khashoggi, women being oppressed, LGBTQ plus people being put to death, those who do not recognize a certain mandated religion being imprisoned, activists being imprisoned, being tortured, what have you. When Greg Norman was asked about this, he said, yeah, you know, people make mistakes. People make mistakes. Like murder? He then said, I'm not going to talk politics anymore. It's very difficult to do so when you are backed by Mohammed bin Salman, by the PIF, by Saudi Arabia as a country. And let me just say one very quick thing. There was a push for women to drive because they weren't allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia years back. And I called it out then, and I will continue calling it out. Shame on CBS and Nora O'Donnell, who usually does some really fantastic work, putting out a fluff piece for 60 Minutes on showing MBS as this visionary and showing him as a progressive leader who really cares about women driving, when really it was an activist named Lou Jane, who you should all look up and who we covered on this channel, that said, hey, I think women should drive. She was in prison. She was tortured. Her family has spoken out against it. And MBS saw that and said, I know what I should do. Silence the activists who started all of this and make it my own so I am seen in a better light. And that's what happened. So look, I can go on and on about this. I'm going to read to you what CNBC printed because I think it's really important. However, just keep that in mind when thinking about Live Golf. I'm sorry, let me get to your all y'all's comments real quick, and then I'll get into the story. Again, I reiterate, one of my favorite, and if you're just jumping in, I don't feel great, so thus I am going to keep drinking this. Injured table tennis player is one of the best usernames I have seen on here, so kudos. Let's see. Carson Boys says the Saudis win again. I'll go over that momentarily. Joe Mama. All right, this is actually not bad either. But the way they spelled it, though, it's not just like MOMMA. Joe Mama says crazy. Holy Saint John the Divine. All the players who signed to Live are looking really smart and taking those big payments to come into Live just for Live to merge with the PGA. On paper, sure, I agree. Tom Jones says greed has no morals. Well, 100%. JM says seeing all these woke journalists cope is going to be hilarious. I will address this guy once and then I won't again. Define woke. Because it's not what you think it is. Woke is not anything you don't like. Woke is calling out the systems of oppression that put down the marginalized and minorities in this country. And someone seeing that, reading about it, coming to this conclusion, and then calling it out. It is not a journalist being woke or a sportscaster being woke or anything you don't like being woke or LGBTQ rights being woke or thinking women are equal to men being woke. Your definition, I'm telling you, and this is like, I feel like an uncle at this point with like a fireside chat on Christmas Eve, but I'm just telling you, you're wrong. It's time to correct this instead of painting a broad brush of a word that you don't know or understand and placing it on anything you don't like. Okay. Sports PSP, thank you for the dono, says, love the background, Rick. Keep up the work. I'm not kidding you. So I moved, we have to get into this, but I moved from LA back in Chicago, and my wife and I had a deal in place. Can't get into the specifics. It fell through. That was not addressed to me, though that is signed by Scottie Pippen. That is signed by Frank Thomas. I'll get back to you on that one. I was at the Bulls game where that got signed. That is an official basketball of the 1996 NBA Finals between the Bulls and the Jazz. We used to collect this stuff, and then I just became part of the media and like incredibly objective, and I feel like an idiot sometimes. That was signed by the White Sox when they won the World Series. I like the White Sox and the Cubs. It's not a big deal. That is when Indiana beat #1 Kentucky at Assembly Hall. True story. That is signed by Magic Johnson. My uncle saw him at a gas station in LA. Just so happened to have his jersey. This is before his kids were born, in his car, and said, could you make it out to Ricky? So that's, you can't see it. This is flip flop. I'm sorry if my to Ricky. And there's more here, but I am quite literally in my parents' basement right now until we get a place. Okay, here we go. So all credit where it's due to Lillian Rizzo. PGA Tour agrees to merge with Saudi-backed rival Live Golf. The PGA Tour has agreed to the merger in a deal that would see the competitors squash pending litigation and move forward as a larger golf enterprise. Okay, this is very important because I don't know if they will get into these specifics. Here's how I learned about this. So there was litigation pending that they were about to go into discovery that Live Golf and the PGA were fighting it out. I learned about this because I saw that Live Miami, the club, was going to sue Live Golf because they were trying to trademark Live. Getting beat out by, a club like that is flat out embarrassing. But, and here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. We were going to learn a lot about what's on the books for Live Golf, the business dealings they had. It was almost like this had to happen to protect Saudi Arabia, to protect the sports minister, to protect MBS, to protect everything that they do not want coming to light. The two entities signed an agreement that would combine the PGA Tour and Live Golf's commercial businesses and rights into a new, yet-to-be-named for-profit company. The agreement includes the DP World Tour, also known as the European PGA Tour. I mean, I think some of the courses that the PGA plays at are pristine, but the European courses are badass. I don't know if you guys ever watched the DP World Tour, but man, those courses are like brilliant. Live Golf is backed by the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, the PIF, as I told you guys, an entity, this is the PIF, controlled by the Saudi Crown Prince and has been embroiled in antitrust lawsuits, which I just gave to you, with the PGA Tour in the last year. The deal announced Tuesday would end all pending litigation. This is a humongous win for Live Golf, because now here's a rough example. Okay, when Colin Kaepernick sued the NFL, and the NFL was like, "Bring it on," right? And they were about to go into discovery. That's when the NFL was like, no. Mm-mm. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna throw you a bag for what you lost out on, and then some, and let's call it a day." And they did. Because if those details come to light, think about the fallout of what happens. This is why billion-dollar corporations hire the best lawyers, and in turn, damage control hire the best PR firms possible. That is what was going to happen here with Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump would likely be involved. I'm sure many Republican congressmen, Congress people, senators would be involved as well. Potentially many others. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised within the Trump sphere, because they used all of this in order to not only gain leverage with the American public by saying, "Hey, we're putting on this really cool thing," where a lot of these events at Live Golf just turned into Trump rallies. You heard like 4 more years and um, let's go Brandon and all that stuff. And then you saw Greg Norman raising the roof, which I haven't seen since like, an early thousands MTV with Carson Daly music video style thing that happened long time ago. What was that called? Total Countdown Live or something? I don't remember, but you know what I'm talking about. So there was a reason why they settled this litigation. It's because it was going to get very bad for a lot of people. So this was the right move, if I'm being very objective here, for Saudi Arabia. PIF is prepared to invest billions of new capital into the new entity. Terms of the deal weren't disclosed, no surprise there. As part of the agreement, the three groups will establish a fair and objective process for any players who want to reapply for membership with the PGA Tour or DP World Tour following the end of the 23 season. The deal comes soon after Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship, one of 4 major titles in men's golf. We covered this as well. Like, hey, Brooks Koepka is playing really well. Some of these other guys who are with Live Golf are playing really well. Should they get a spot in the Ryder Cup? Brooks Koepka winning, I have to be very clear about this, has nothing to do with this settlement whatsoever. It has more to do with, should he have a spot when the Americans take on the Europeans at the Ryder Cup. Live Golf, which has been spending top dollar to lure golfers, has also been the subject of controversy. Okay, well, what are we going to do here? Okay, so then the writer writes in a paragraph, stuff that I just told you about Saudi Arabia. When Donald Trump had a Live Golf event at one of his properties, he gave an erroneous statement about, we don't really know who got to the bottom of 9/11. When we do, it was just him providing cover for a foreign entity that he has to protect, because, it's sort of like, you wash my back, I wash yours. So here's what they wrote. Family members of those that perished in the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks have protested the league, including outside of events. 15 of the 19 hijackers on that dais were from Saudi, and Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the attacks, was born in the country. It has been concluded by U.S. officials that Saudi nationals helped fund the terrorist group Al Qaeda, although investigations didn't find that the Saudi officials were complicit in the attacks. I believe, tell me if I'm wrong here, I believe that was also in Oregon as well, where members of different families who had people that sadly passed away during those attacks protested Live and Saudi being recognized by this tour at different properties. But I believe the one that they protested outside of the course was in Oregon. So then Trump gave the nobody got to the bottom of 9/11 when we did. On Tuesday, Trump weighed in on the merger on Truth Social. Quote, "Great news from Live Golf, a big, beautiful, and glamorous deal for the wonderful world of golf. Congrats to all." They then list the press release, which at that point, fine. I will say, and I'm trying to pull up more quotes here, so pardon me for looking down. I am surprised that it happened this quickly. We learned about this lawsuit pending. I want to say, what is it, June right now? I want to say this was like January ish. And quite honestly, the way that they built up, hey, we're going to have shotgun starts. Hey, we're going to have music playing. Hey, it's going to be this great, fun thing. Nobody took it seriously. A lot of those events that Trump had, you remember the good liars that were out there and, they were like, hey, Phil, give us a wave. And Phil gave them like a nod. They celebrated the wave. And then Jason Selvig as Phil Mickelson approaches his ball, lines up his tee shot, yells like, do it for the Saudi royal family. Does everybody remember that? It was captured on Newsmax. Those crowds were sparse. I would say that although it doesn't matter in the grand scheme because Donald Trump and many others just wanted to line their pockets. And on top of that, we don't know what Saudi Arabia paid Donald Trump for him to host. It's sort of like when he would have Secret Service and different members of Congress, of the Senate, foreign leaders, what have you, go to his course. He would raise the prices of everything because he could. And then we would foot the bill. Taxpayers would foot the bill. A great website is Trump Golf Count, I believe it's called. It will tell you how much taxpayers spent over those 4 years on his properties. He was practically keeping these properties afloat because throughout his tenure, many did not want to be aligned with the Trump brand. So when Live Golf came about, it was like, oh, so all we have to do is place our tournaments there and we could just pay him whatever we want. That's what it appeared to be. So here's more. In a joint statement on Tuesday with the DP World Tour, which is also covered by the agreement, the Wealth Fund, the PIF, and the PGA Tour said the former rivals would implement a plan to grow these combined commercial businesses, drive greater fan engagement, and accelerate growth initiatives already underway. Going forward, fans can be confident that we will collectively deliver on the promise we've always made to promote competition to the best in pro golf and that we are committed to securing and driving the game's future, said PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan. So, look, there is limited intel right now. I'm not going to lie to you. But what I will say is this. Live Golf was not necessarily one that many took seriously enough to say, this is really hurting us. The PGA Tour just wanted this to end because they want the best facing the best. What this potentially means, don't know. But, I mean, I will say, it feels calculated by Liv. They had to know that this was coming. Was it just a way for them to sports wash their reputation? I believe so. And through Republican politics, it has really shifted from being like so pro-America to being, so pro-Russia, with Marjorie Taylor Greene giving ridiculous statements in favor of the Kremlin. So pro-Saudi Arabia, with many fans now warming up to it. And the worst, by the way, is going to be in 2030. And I'll tell you why. In 2030, Saudi Arabia is going to host the World Cup. It is going to be, the coverage is going to be way worse than the Qatar World Cup. I'm telling you that right now. For Dustin Johnson and, Brandel Chambly and Phil Mickelson and Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka, they got paid. Their reputation took a massive hit. And yet over time, they can potentially repair it. I don't know if that will happen, but it could. All right, some of y'all's comments. Let's see. Jess Rush says, This is disgusting. Saudi prince kills journalists and now gets golf tournaments? Nasty. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. Carlos says, so now MBS will be at the Masters? I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. Let's see. I'm trying to skip the idiots. Weedy Gonzalez says, more lives, Ricky. I'll try. Did I say Brandel Chambly? I'm sorry. I meant to say Charles Schwartzel. I apologize for that. Let's see. Just remember, always record the police without a doubt. Oh, behind the scenes. What's up, dude? Love your guys' stuff. Tom Jones asks, what's next? The Olympic Games in Riyadh? I wouldn't rule it out. BLL. I have to assume that's B-ball player, but you're missing a B. Bulls played the Jet. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That wasn't the Sonic series. Let's see. Kenayata doesn't know what woke is. Let's see. Call me Frog 7 says the poop show is over. Those guys who didn't cash in on a live offer must be pissed. Yes and no. I mean, they also negotiated with the PGA Tour for higher payouts, so it's not like Rory and Tiger and a bunch of those guys. Victor Hovland has played fantastic golf recently. It's not like those guys didn't have a win. They did. Let's see. Not really smart telling people where you are with your collectibles. I guess. Rivals Esports says, though, so there's no more PGA. No, that's not what it means. No. Call Me Frog says 9/11 Trump thought this was about golf. Brother, if you really have to ask questions like that, you are not keeping up with this story in the slightest. In the slightest. Have you not seen any of our coverage? Did you not listen to any of my opening monologue on what Live Golf is, what they stand for, the relationships they have, etc.? Jake Miller says this guy just hates Trump. And then he says, okay. All right, brother. I hope you have a great one because we are not going down the conspiratorial rabbit hole. Let's see. Who's changing Trump's adult diaper this morning? Shiva Mahadev says Jake loves Saudi Arabia. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see. Malback says, I missed you, Rick. I missed you too. Here's another thing, guys and girls. Stop saying like, oh, well, golf isn't a sport. Golf isn't a sport. It is. Chess is a sport. Horse racing is a sport. I also don't care about being like, about debating like, oh, it's not a sport, it's a skill. It's like when Max Kellerman did that just to like have some engagement. And I love Max. I'm very clear about that. But like it's not this, it's that. I just don't care to do it. Is pro golf beyond saving now? No, it's there. It's fine. All right, JM, it was great, man. It was great. Have a good one. Idiot. Let's see. If bowling is a sport, golf is definitely a sport. Bowling is a sport. Rick, don't think Saudis can host World Cup, being that Qatar just hosted in the region. I'm just reporting facts here. I know that FIFA was looking into it, and considering the relationship that Gianni Infantino has with guys like, there's a picture of Infantino who's supposed to be this reformer, and he's anything but. Obviously, he's just another cog. He's sandwiched between MBS and Vladimir Putin, and they're all laughing and yucking it up. It is like gross. It is gross. Let's see. NASCAR and golf are definitely sports. Yeah, they are. They are. All right. So look, I got more work to do, but I appreciate everybody hopping on here. I feel like it's a very big story. The PGA Tour and Live Golf merging. We will have more details as they come about. Love y'all. Be good.